Right. So today, because in the last sessions we have discussed about system configuration in context to the ServiceNow application. Followed by this, we have discussed even about incident management, service log, etc. Now, today we are going to discuss about the integration part, because whenever we wants to integrate any application, especially with ServiceNow, let's say you want to integrate with some many of the uh, other external or internal applications and all, it's always important for us to create some integration part process. So in reference to the integration process, it's always important to define the properties, because when you want to perform this, you need to define some properties first. So before we are initiating it, it's always important for us to uh, create some name. Okay, so name creation is something which we have to do, so that we have to import it, right? So here I'm just giving one example wherein creating an import for integration for a release purpose. Okay, for example, release integration, right? So release based what generally the release uh, process of integration, release process of an application once deployed. Okay, application process once it is deployed. This is what something a short description I have written, and we have to select the application, which application we are working on, because our application is POS, which is already created over here. So that here we can click on save and continue. So once you have click on save and continue, when it comes to the integration part, so here we have already created a name for the release part. So now what we have to do here, we need to select the source type, because selecting the source type is also important. So wherein if you want to select any kind of source type or something like, wherein we need to access the information from the Excel, right? So we have to extract the data from the Excel format, right? So Excel format data is what something. Now here what we have to do, we need to update, we need to access the data. Now let's say I'm just taking some data sets, because using some data set I'm taking, okay? Just as for employee data, employee sample data is what something which I'm taking. So employee sample data is in a data set which I have taken, which is an Excel one. And you can see all the preview, right? So about the country, department, city, age, right? Annual salary, gender, right? So all that information you can see, right? So in the left-hand side, you can see the preview regarding that. So once we have taken, so here we need to provide the data, right? So this is where generally the data is all about, where configuration will be done. Next, here you can see the map target, right? Means if you want to add any kind of tables to the existing one, that can be done later. But before we are going to that, whatever the data we have taken, here we need to select the properties. So whatever the required properties, integration properties to be updated. So related properties we have to update, and we can click on, because integration with an external application or an external data is always required. So when we are working on the integration part, especially as in when you see, this is something useful for the people whoever is applying for business analyst roles, at the same time admin roles, ServiceNow admin or a developer, or even for admin roles, for business analyst roles. Anyone, this integration now and then it is becoming important, because even for example, you are a business analyst in ServiceNow. Earlier it was functional BA roles. Now it's becoming technical BA even, right? So you must be having some technical knowledge. That's how the situation has uh, situation is now. Okay, so you need to have some technical knowledge. So in this regard, so being a technical business analyst, it's important for us to know about the integration part, which is always helpful to attain in your professional career to the next level. But for administrator, it is important, because administrators are all majorly focusing on integration part, wherein connecting from external system servers or external data, all that. So even for the admin part, it is required. At the same time, even for developers also it is needed, of course, because developers has to do the integration, wherein they have to create some API, right? So API creations, everything has to be done. So even for them also this is required. Okay. So this is how generally this integration followed by the configuration when we wants to do. This is what something which normally we do when we are working on the service now. So once it is done here, as I mentioned, right, so there are different property sets we have. So what are the required property sets you want to do, everything can be done. And you need to configure the data as in when whatever the data we have taken. Next, we need to map the target, map this to the target, right? So map this to the target is what something which we need to be done. So map how this can be mapped to the target that I'm going to discuss in the next session, data mapping. Okay. Right. So this is all about the session.